What's up, weaves, and welcome back to Anime Lane, the podcast where we take you down the yellow brick road of anime and have a look at everything it has to offer. As always, I'm your host, Rebel Notorious. I fucking blanked.
You almost forgot your name there for a second.
I know. And joining me today is Shaun.
Yeah, and it's just me again.
No Melina today. We're trying something a little bit different. This is our first. I think this will be the first official remote episode of either podcast.
I've also just remembered this is probably the first episode of Anime Lane where it's not Melina and me. It's just me.
Yeah, this will be the first. Me. Yeah, there's been a nap where it's just you, but this is the first Anime Lane where it's just the two of us.
Scheduling, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. I had a solo slot to fill, and I've not been watching a whole bunch recently, so it's like I kind of wasn't sure what to talk about. I'm kind of out of just random topics I can throw out and talk about for a solid hour and be confident in what I'm talking about.
So now you've employed the help of me, because I'll absolutely help you.
I mean, we bounce off each other well, so even if we pick, like in this case, we're gonna be starting with JoJo.
Yeah.
I don't think the episode's gonna be titled JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just because I feel like it's something we're gonna end up covering eventually anyway.
Yeah, when I've watched the full thing, because just going into this now, I've only seen like the first two parts and a bit of the third part.
I'm currently, because today is December 1st, part 6, Stone Ocean. The final set of episodes just got dumped on Netflix. So I've watched the first 4. So I'm most of the way through part 6. So I'm kind of up to date. I'm on the pulse of JoJo, which wasn't
part
the
5?
case.
You said first 4.
I've seen part 4 and 5.
Okay, you said the first 4, so I got confused for a sec.
Oh, I've seen all of JoJo. I've seen all parts, and I'm on the pulse. That's what I said, not parts 1 through 4. I'm on the pulse of JoJo.
If I just got confused there, then blame me.
Yeah. So yeah, where do we start? I guess at the beginning with part 1.
As these stories tend to do.
Here is the question, because we sort of in the very first episode of the show talked about JoJo. But how did you end up watching it? Because it's, pardon the pun, a bit of a bizarre one to have as one of your very first experiences of anime.
So I ended up watching JoJo originally because of my two other mates who we were just trying to find something to watch, and then one of them had seen JoJo. I'm not sure how much, but they had seen at least like the first few parts. So they just suggested, hey, we could watch this at some point as like a hangout sort of thing. So we did that, which is the reason why I haven't continued past that, because collectively that's all we've watched like together.
Yeah, that's interesting, because part 1's not something like I struggle to recommend JoJo, because you gotta suffer through part 1.
I didn't mind part 1, but once part 2 happened, I was like, yeah, I don't really care about part 1 anymore.
I've never jived with part 1. I think
it's very basic.
Yeah, I tried watching it at some point. I can't even remember how long ago. Before I watched like the whole of season 1, which encompasses part 1 and part 2, which was 2019, I think, in the middle of part 5 airing. I think the hype of that at the time got me to finally cave and try watching it again. And I suffered through the first 9 episodes and got into part 2 and was like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And then I hit part 3, and that, yeah.
You have opinions on part 3.
I have opinions on part 3, but I'll leave them until you've seen it, because I don't want to colour your like potential enjoyment of it.
I mean, I say I've seen a bit of part 3, but like the part I've gone up to might be like halfway at this point. It's hard to remember because like it was months ago since like
there's 48 episodes of part 3.
Okay,
it's fucking long.
I'm at the very least past the first like third, I think.
Okay,
because I know we're in double digits.
Fair. So you're about halfway through the first part.
The last
of
thing I
part
remember
3.
is like this little tiny baby, like enemy stand thingy. It's
Baby enemy stand.
I don't know if I want to go further, but if you don't remember it, because it's weird. It's really weird. Like they're in like a plane or something, and they find a baby, but a baby turns out to actually be.
Oh god. Shit.
Shit is the right word, by the way, for how that episode ends.
The tower. Is it the tower?
I can't remember the actual stand like card because they're based on cards at this point anyway.
At this point, yeah, they're based on the. I think for the first like
Tarot
24,
cards?
they're based on the tarot cards, and then
Because we've gotten past like the sun as well, because that was a filler episode and a half.
is that the one where they're literally stuck out in the middle of the desert?
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole episode.
Oh, I hate that one.
I spent that entire episode like expecting it to pick up, like, oh, this is just the first act, like explaining it, and then it just ends. Like they beat it. That's
so
it.
that episode, right, kind of encompasses my entire problem with part 3.
It doesn't pick up.
Kind of, and I think it's mainly to do with the fact that like we mentioned the stands all being based on tarot cards. I really think that just limited the Araki.
I don't know.
I think
his
is
name.
the name of the author. Like his ability to be creative with the stands, because once I hit part 4 and part 5, and now in part 6 as well, the stands are like fucking wild.
Okay, good.
And some of the abilities are insane.
They should
Like there
be
was
wild.
one. Yeah, like in part 6, the first episode of this new batch that came out, the first 2 episodes, because it's like a 2-parter. The stand's called Bohemian Rhapsody, and its ability is not restricted by distance or anything, right? It turns every like fictional character and like painting and makes them come to life. So like Batman comes out of comics. You see Astro Boy and Mazinger Z flying through the sky. They get attacked by Pinocchio, the 7 dwarfs, the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood.
This sounds amazing.
It is really good. Like I was so confused at first. I will say that the way that part concludes, like that little story arc concludes, is a bit disappointing. But you know, that's the sort of like stands just get a bit insane after part 3. Whereas I feel like they're limited by, well, here's the tower, so it's kind of limited into the idea that the stand can produce.
We gotta make it tower based somehow.
Yeah, because the sun was sort of based on the idea of the sun,
Yeah.
in a sense, I guess.
Fucking hot.
It was hot. We're talking about part 3.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen JoJo's, don't listen to this.
Don't
I
listen to
guess.
this, and I'm sure if you have seen JoJo, you're screaming at us because we're not explaining it right. But
No, we're really not. How does one explain JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
it's a bizarre adventure with a guy called
It's-
JoJo. Or girl, because I know a girl shows up as...
Or girl, yeah, Jolene.
Yeah, Jolene.
Who I have a oh, you can't see her. I have a model
Yeah.
of her. I have a
The
I have a
listeners
figure of
can't
her.
see her either, so that's fine.
The listeners can't see her now. Oh my god, how so JoJo starts in the 1800s?
Yeah, it's like Victorian England.
Which it just doesn't really do anything with, except when Jack the Ripper shows up for a bit.
Yeah, you get Jack the Ripper, and that's the only thing that really ties it to the era. It could have been placed at any other time, really.
100%. Like the only one point that really feels like it's Victorian England is the fact that there's one episode where Jonathan, the original JoJo, just goes to London.
Yeah.
And there's like no explanation.
Yeah.
He's just
In London now.
there. He's just in London to try and like, I think, save his dad or something because he's
it's
dying.
hard to remember at this point.
Yeah, because he thinks Dio is poisoning his dad, so he goes to London
We should
to
explain
enlist
who
a
Dio
doctor's
is
help.
first off, by the way.
Yeah, Okay, so the beginning of JoJo is JoJo, Jonathan Joestar, his dad, whose name I don't remember.
George.
George
I only
Joestar.
know this because before we started recording this, I watched a recap video on YouTube about the first part. I still don't feel like I've gained much memory, but it's better than I had like after like a year of not, or year 2 years maybe, 3 years maybe of not watching it now.
For me, it's been 3 years. I watched it back in 2019, I think. But I read the manga like this year at some point, so I have stuff here, but it is so generic, it's so forgettable.
Generic Joestar.
Even yeah. So Jonathan, his dad George,
they're from a rich family, we should say.
they're from a rich family, and one night when George is like on his way home and it's raining and there's a storm, his carriage like falls off the road and he's saved by
Dio's father,
whose
whose name I can't remember.
yeah,
is he given a
remember.
name?
I think he does have a name, but I don't know.
He's not that important. He probably should be, judging by Dio's sort of backstory.
Yeah. What's his? Dario.
Oh, fucking course.
Dario Brando.
Nice.
And so this whole thing like comes about because George has like got a stone mask.
Oh yeah, it's like an antique or something in like his house.
Yeah, so I think he found it on an expedition or something, and he's bringing it home. The storm happens. Dario saves him, and George is like, "Oh, I owe you my life." And so when Dario is dying, he sends his son to the Joestar family household to be taken care of. But Dario was a piece of shit and was kind of abusive towards Dio, and that very much rubbed off on Dio.
Oh, absolutely.
As a person.
I love
literally the.
I want to say, by the way, just sorry to cut you off, but
No.
I love when I remembered the recap because I completely forgot about Dio's backstory up until I watched it. So I kind of had that moment of, wow, I love the fact that they gave him a sort of sympathetic backstory and then did nothing to make him a sympathetic character after the fact whatsoever.
No, he is just a total irredeemable asshole.
Yeah, it's like, you see where this guy came from. It doesn't really excuse anything, though.
No.
Because, like, he meets Jonathan, and, like, the first thing he does is kick his dog.
Kick his dog.
Which is such a trope. It's literally the name of, like, a trope of just, like, a bad guy doing something irredeemable.
Yeah. They then kind of... There's, like, a big time skip where they kind of grow up. Because they're quite young when they first meet. I think they're, what, in their early teens, maybe?
Like, 11, 12?
Yeah. And then we see them at the end of like high school, probably 17-ish.
17, yeah, I'd say, because spoiler alert for part 1, by the way, but when Jonathan dies, he's like canonically 19.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is the thing with JoJo and the art style, and kind of plays a little bit in anime in general, but very specifically when it comes to JoJo, they're all like 16, 17 at the time of their parts. They're young, but they all look like they're in their mid-30s.
I'd say like mid-20s at least.
You cannot look at Jotaro, sorry, and not tell me he looks like he's in his 30s.
Well, Jotaro's the exception because he decides to dress as a fucking train conductor all the time.
Yeah. I remember asking you when you started part 3, I was like, are you confused about the fact he's not a train conductor? Or that this part has nothing to do with trains?
I was just like, yeah, why does he look like that?
I remember watching part 3 and I'm like, when are the trains going to come into this?
I think it's specifically the hat that does
the
it.
Hat and the like chain thing.
Yeah. I'd say Jonathan, you can also say is like looks like he's in his late 20s.
Yeah.
Joseph's
he's like,
probably the one that looks like he's in his mid-20s, but that's also because he's immature as fuck.
Oh, yeah. Jonathan gets away with his look because he's like canonically like a rugby player.
Oh, yeah.
And those guys always have like fairly burly physiques even when they're kind of, late teens, early
Yeah,
20s. So his look is passable. Joseph and Jotaro's not really.
No, like Joseph, it's not. He didn't like live on the streets or anything, did he? Like, is that his?
No,
because he had a loving like family and stuff. So he had a sort of normal upbringing in 30s America, but he looks like he's been to the gym like daily since he was 5.
Yeah.
As is the curse of the Joestars.
The Joestars.
Except not really, because like Joseph's not a blood relation of Jonathan. Because like they.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because part
actually,
one,
now that
we're jumping all over the
point it
place, but like the end of part 1 has like when Jonathan dies. Again, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
His wife like finds a baby because they've been attacked on like a ship, and the baby's parents have died. So
who becomes Lisa in part 2.
Big spoiler alert.
Big spoiler alert.
A character so nice they named her twice. Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her. It's a fantastic episode we're making here.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Is he Wait, that totally fucks up.
Yeah, because he looks like Jonathan as well, so I don't know why.
And he also has the birthmark as well.
Does
so
he?
He's blood. Yeah, all of them have the
Yeah.
birthmark.
We're gonna assume that.
Oh! I know what it is. So, Lisa had Joseph with Jonathan's son because Irina was pregnant at the time that he died.
Yeah, I remember hearing this in like one of the recap episodes I watched.
Yeah,
she's totally pregnant, by the way.
It's not really covered very well.
No, because it feels so much like an ass pull at like either the beginning of part 3 or the end of part 2.
I mean, the beginning of part 3 is so much of an ass pull when Dio comes back.
I mean, we're just gonna ignore that giant fucking thing for now.
But the whole latter half of the entire series is predicated on that one moment where they find his body in another compartment of a coffin.
I can't believe like the really good part of this series was all bent on Dio's decapitated head stealing the body of Jonathan. If
And
you
not
have
just
not
that-
watched JoJo, please do.
And not just that, the fact that he also, with Jonathan's body whilst being Dio, gets jiggy with it with multiple women.
So, whose blood is being like descended here?
Well, that's the thing, because sorry, this is like wild spoilers if you've not like seen any of JoJo, but I'll be honest, this sort of thing of like getting spoiled for some parts of JoJo can make you really interested in watching it, I think.
Yeah, because the more I hear you talk about later stuff that happens in JoJo with with least spoilers as possible, it still makes me want to watch them anyway.
Yeah. So you have part 5 with Giorno Giovanna, who is Dio's son, which means he's Joseph's half-brother biologically. So he's technically Jotaro's uncle.
I'm
he's
so
younger than him.
confused.
Because during part 5, Jotaro would be in his 30s.
Because like
Because I'm sure he's 40 by the time of part 6.
for more context, because like part 3 takes place in like the 80s.
The 80s, yeah. And he's 17.
Yeah, and I'm guessing by the time what part is Dio's son in?
Part 5, which is the end of the 90s.
Ah, okay.
Because I'm sure it's... Oh, wait, is it 2001? No, yeah, it's 2001, because you have part 4 takes place in 1999, and then part 5 takes place 2 years later, and then part 6 is a 10-year or 11-year time jump to 2012.
Ah, okay. I knew 2012 was like up in there somewhere.
Mm.
Is that Jolene?
That's Jolene, yeah.
I love that she's called Jolene because that's such a JoJo musical reference to make.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because like
bugs me...
everything is a musical reference in this fucking show.
Oh
and
yeah,
like 90%
everything.
of them go over my head.
It's funny because I like have to like listen to the I guess you should cover this now that you've brought it up. Basically, the way it is because they're worried about copyright when translating it. Just in the subtitles and in the dub as well, all of the names get like skewed slightly, so they're like copyright free. Once you hit mainly part 3 where the stands get involved, because those are when it really starts hitting like just straight name dropping.
Well, yeah, you
bands.
said Bohemian Rhapsody earlier.
Yeah, you got Bohemian Rhapsody. There was Limp Bizkit earlier this season. What else is there? Oh, there's Whitesnake. That's the main antagonist's stand this season. You've had Foo Fighters.
Of course you have.
It was just called FF in the subtitles.
Fantastic Four.
Limp Bizkit got translated to Limp Viscit. Playing on the whole B and V thing in Japanese.
Very subtle.
Very subtle. Bohemian Rhapsody became Bohemian Ecstatic for some reason.
Sure.
And Whitesnake, I'll give you like 3 guesses to figure out what they changed that to.
You see, I feel like it's going to be so obvious I'm not going to get it. So I look like an idiot. Is it like Black Cobra?
No. They've changed one part of it, and that's it.
White Rake.
No, one more guess.
I don't think I want... Again, I feel like I'm going to prove I'm stupid because it's going to be so obvious.
It's not the snake part they've changed.
Bright Snake.
Pale Snake.
Ah!
Last,
I hate
5,
it, but I love it at the same time.
Part 5 had Notorious B.I.G., which got changed to Notorious Chase.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Couldn't have called them
honestly.
Notorious Smalls.
Yeah, it's always fun because it's like slight confusion between hearing what they say and reading what the subtitles say.
Yeah.
Because they're so very clearly references to real world musicians, artists, songs, albums.
Yeah. I think the funniest one I had like when I was watching it was AC/DC.
Oh yeah, they literally just phonetically spell it out.
It's not spelled AC/DC, it's phonetic. But it's pronounced exactly the same.
There's also Cars. They literally just change the C to the K.
Yeah, Cars.
And Wham became Whamu.
Oh, that makes sense.
They just added the W on.
Wham.
Because of the way the Japanese pronounce it.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Jolene, though. At the beginning of Stone Ocean, there's a scene where like someone's saying Jolene's name over and over again, and it's like very clearly meant to be
Jolene.
her singing. Yeah, her singing the Dolly Parton song, but it's like ever so slightly.
They restrained the reference this much. They're using it for all it's worth.
Yeah. It's like ever so slightly off so they can't have anyone come at them for copyright, which I find hilarious because some of these are literally just names.
Yeah.
Because one of them from part 2 was one of the Pillar Men. In fact, I could argue all the Pillar Men except AC/DC. I feel like that's a bit on the nose.
Yeah, it's not
like,
subtle.
No, like I feel like changing how that's written out, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wham is a sound.
Yeah.
And Cars, it's an object. It is an inanimate object.
You can't copyright the word cars.
No. And then there was also the one Pillar Man that got like totally fucked up by Joseph at the start. Santana, which is Santa Viento or something like that.
I can't
How they
remember.
translate it. It's really weird. It doesn't make any sense. But again, Santana is just like a surname. So you can't copyright that. But because it's a band, I can't remember how they translated it. It was something really weird. San Viento, for some reason.
Why not?
Yeah, that's one of the charms of JoJo, I guess. Kind of trying to decipher what a reference is.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah. It's because you also have Zeppeli is actually a reference to Led Zeppelin.
I figured that out.
Speedwagon is a reference to REO Speedwagon. In fact, his entire name is just a reference to that because it's Robert. He has two middle names, I think, and they're E and O, so it's REO Speedwagon.
They really want to make the full reference.
Yeah.
They only ever call him Speedwagon, though.
Yeah, they do. And then Dio is obviously a reference to the late and great Dio, Ronnie James Dio.
It's Dio.
Dio, which is the only one that doesn't get changed, but later becomes like fully capitalized.
Okay. Because he's now Dio.
Yeah, in part 3 it becomes like fully capitalized, and that's like just like a direct reference to Dio the singer, and I'm like, hold on.
The animated head deserves the respect.
Yeah, I'm like, you'll lean fully into the reference there, but you won't lean into the rest of them?
At that point, he's basically done a MODOK. Like, it should just stand for something now. Decapitated. I can't think of a word for his, like, zombie that starts with an I.
Oh, God.
Decapitated irritating organism. There you go.
Decapitated invasive organism.
There you go. Dio. Canon. I'm calling that canon now. I like how this started off as a story synopsis and it's basically become not that.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's listening to this and they haven't watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like, watch it. It's genuinely good.
This shouldn't be your start.
I mean,
like, this episode shouldn't be your start, is what I'm saying.
I know, like, before I watched JoJo, I knew quite a bit just through, like, cultural osmosis.
I knew a little. I knew mainly through the roundabout meme.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
I suppose it's different because, like, by the time I watched it, I was, like, fully in the anime community. So I mean, it was inescapable when I first watched part 1 and 2, because, like I said, Golden Wind was airing, and this is a thing that's bugged me about part 6, is Netflix snapped it up, and they've been dropping it. I mean, it's been literally a year to the day we're recording this that it first started coming out on Netflix with part 6. The first 12 episodes were dropped December 1st, 2021. There was a massive fucking, like, span of nothing. Then the second part dropped in September, I think. And then we got the last batch today, December 1st. And there is, like, no hype on social media. There is no discussion of it on social media because, well, they're dumping it, and there's, it's hard to get the, oh my god, it's I mean, I think I remember it was like JoJo Friday or JoJo Sunday or something when it was airing, and every fucking week you would go on, and my timeline on Twitter, it would be, I couldn't see anything but JoJo memes during part 5's run, because it was like the hype was there, the community was there to watch it, and now, because of the way Netflix is doing it, there isn't that same level of,
like, it's just is it like a one and done of just like a bunch of episodes instead of like a weekly thing?
Yep, one and done.
I hate that.
So when part 5 and even back when part 4 was airing, it was concurrently coming out with the Japanese broadcast, but Netflix have snapped it up and we're getting it all at once in English speaking territories, and then it's like airing, like I think within a couple of weeks after it goes up on Netflix in Japan. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's odd.
Because I remember thinking like, oh, so it went up on December 1st, and then I think it was, I want to say it was January it started airing in Japan. And I thought, oh, so we'll get more episodes when the Japanese broadcast is done for the first 12 episodes. So I'm like, okay, March comes round, we got nothing. And then it wasn't until like September, and I have no idea when those episodes like aired on Japanese TV. But it's been totally messed up, and like I think the community's responded in that way of like, I mean, most of the community might not even have Netflix. You know, Netflix isn't people's go-to place for anime. That's why Crunchyroll exists. That's why.
No matter how hard Netflix is trying.
Yeah, that's it.
It's still very much Crunchyroll.
Oh, 100%. And the weird thing is like, because we kind of decided to do this episode like yesterday.
Yeah, this is very much an impromptu like episode for us.
Yeah, and so I quickly went onto Netflix, and I'm like, I'll see if I can find like a movie for us to chat about. And oh my god, have you ever? I mean, you probably haven't. But going into the like film section of Netflix, because like when you open it up, you get like, you get the main like page where you'll get all your recommendations and stuff. But you can go into like TV shows, and then there's movies.
Yeah.
And I went into movies, went into categories, and filtered it down to anime. And I'll tell you, when I started watching anime back in 2014, Netflix had very little in the way of anime. They had only, I think, just released their first, like Netflix original anime.
Yeah.
But their like catalog content was like very little. But it also meant there was more that you could kind of hone in on and pick and go, okay, I'll watch that. I remember watching Psycho Pass, and a couple other things. I think Orange High School Host Club, a few other kind of shows. But I went on the movie section and looked at anime, and it is still like a pitiful selection. You're either getting Studio Ghibli or some of their originals that are not that amazing.
Fantastic.
You got the Godzilla trilogy, which is,
forgot that existed.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could forget it exists, but I can't because it's made by like a studio I really like.
Maybe we'll talk about it one day.
Maybe. I did think maybe we could cover it, but then I was like, no, because it's 3 movies, so we'd have to then watch the other 2 and do episodes on them, whereas I think we'll wait and see.
Yeah. And we'll force Melina to be subjected to it as well.
Yeah, there's that as well. That was the thing, is like I'm going through it and I'm like, I'm looking for things that like specifically we could watch.
Yeah.
And so much of what is on Netflix is like not specific enough. It's either stuff Netflix owns, which is hit or miss at best, Studio Ghibli, fantasy, or Gundam.
Which, to be fair, you do like Gundam.
I do like Gundam, but I own a whole fuck ton of Gundam.
You're the super fan who doesn't need to have Netflix to enjoy Gundam.
Exactly. And it's great for when it comes to like whenever we cover it.
Yeah, it'll be very convenient for me when we continue more Gundam inevitably.
Except they have the original movie trilogy, and then they just fucking jump to Char's counterattack, but you're missing Zeta Gundam at the very least. And I mean,
apparently a really good one according to you.
Yes, it's like one of the best ones of that original kind of storyline.
I've told you, by the way, but for context on the show, by the way, since we watched the 3 original movies, I've been constantly recommended Char's counterattack. And I know because I asked you about it and you were just like, oh, you're still like, how many episodes of whatever before that?
It would be 90 something.
Oh, I thought it was like 130 something.
No, it'd be 97 because there's Zeta and then double Zeta, and then it's Char's counterattack. Zeta 2, yes.
He was biding his time for those 97 episodes.
The one where he wanted to get funny and it didn't work.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Sorry, we're going wildly off track here. Yeah, but no, looking at Netflix and like trying to narrow it down to anime kind of makes me a little bit depressed because it's either very generic or just not something worth talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like valuable in what we define as valuable.
And the thing is, sometimes they'll like nab something and you're like, oh shit, that could be really good. I remember when they announced Bubble like last year at some point, and it's got like a wild like stack of talent behind it that it's directed by, hold on, I'm gonna have to look up the Wikipedia article so I can get.
I'm already enamored by the name Bubble.
The thing is, I looked at it and I'm like, ooh, and I'm like, no, it's something I'd like to watch with Melina. So you've got
Melina's, yeah.
So it's directed by Tetsuro Araki, who directed Death Note and the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan. It's written by Gen Urobuchi, who has written Kamen Rider. He's written a lot of really famous like visual novels. He's written Fate Zero, Psycho Pass. I don't remember if he wrote Psycho Pass like the first couple of seasons. And he's written a couple other things. Then you've got music by my like favorite composer Hiroyuki Sawano, who I've spoken about on the music episode of Nap. And then like the cast is like so many really big names from the Japanese VA industry that you're like, oh my god, how the fuck can this movie go wrong? And then it comes out and everyone's like, oh, it fucking sucks.
Shit.
So I still haven't watched it because I'm like, fuck me.
How can you fuck up a movie called Bubble? Is it just a bubble for like an hour and a half?
I don't know. I want to watch it. Maybe it's something for us to watch like next year, because I totally forgot about it until I was looking at Netflix earlier, and I'm like, oh shit, we could have watched that at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing of like doing the show is trying to pick stuff to watch.
Yeah, and broadening your horizons.
Yeah, there's broadening the horizons, and then there's also picking things that I think can get interesting conversations, and I shouldn't do it, but like I sort of look at things and I'm like, what will please everyone? Like if I'm picking something that I've watched at the very least, like there's a couple we've watched blind, mainly Lupin stuff, and Hello World off the top of my head, which won't be out until after this.
No, it won't.
That's still in the bag.
Look forward to that in the future, dear listeners.
Yeah, in 2 weeks' time. I think it's the last episode of this year, or maybe it's. Is that the January episode? It might be the January episode. Akira and Spirited Away are out. I know that.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Because that episode released, and I was like, oh, I was like clenching my cheeks for a while because I'm like, oh god. Have to deal with the fact that people can now listen to my thoughts on both of those movies.
And suffer the consequences.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about, like, I keep saying that's the interesting thing, and I'm getting fed up of hearing it come out of my mouth.
Everything's the interesting thing.
That's, like, another thing about doing the show is that, like, sorry, this has turned into a bit of a weird introspective thing.
Look, we knew we weren't going to stay on one specific
100%.
topic, so, you know.
It's odd having to... I love talking about shows, and I love putting my thoughts out there, but it's so fucking terrifying when you're putting out an episode that you know, like, may reach beyond, like, when you're putting it up on YouTube, there's always that thing of, like, this could very easily get caught in the search, like, terms of stuff, and it's like, that can go out to a much wider audience
than we're expecting.
And I don't know if I'm prepared for people to come in and go, oh, you thought this about Spirited Away? Well, that's fucking wrong. Or you thought this about Ghost in the Shell? That's fucking wrong. I mean, Ghost in the Shell's been out for like 6 months and no one's come at us for it.
I know, but like, you never know when the algorithm's just going to snatch it up.
That's the thing. Kind of still waiting for that to fucking happen. YouTube gods,
Please.
I mean, I think Ghost in the Shell is the one that, like, I'm super confident if it got caught by the algorithm, I would not care what anyone said.
Okay, cool.
I'm really happy with our conversation about that, and I'm really happy with, like, the way we were all really just able to put our thoughts out on the table about it, because it is a very philosophical movie that makes you really kind of think inward as well as in terms of the film. And I still, like, think back on that conversation and think, when we're talking about movies that do make you think a little bit more, that's kind of what I want to aim for. But obviously, I love the mix of taking the piss out of movies as well. I love nitpicking and throwing random shit.
Mamo.
Mamo's like my other favourite conversation.
For us personally, Mamo's the gold standard of, this movie was a fucking riot. And I love the conversation we got from it.
100%. I think I said this in the Dead or Alive episode, which, again, isn't out yet. We didn't do Hello World and... Wait a minute, what fucking episodes are out? I don't know anymore.
We do these so far in advance sometimes, it's hard to keep track.
Yeah, like, we wrapped production for both of these, like, a couple of weeks ago for the end of the year. And I genuinely just don't know when the fuck shit's coming out. So yeah, Drifting Home and Hello World come out in 2 weeks. Okay. And then it's Lupin and it's Dead or Alive and Wolf Children that comes out at the end of January. When I get that episode edited and put up.
Clock's ticking.
I got plenty of time.
It's still ticking.
What was I talking about there? I kind of went off
conversations we have, I think.
Oh, yeah. Mamo is like what I hold every Lupin to now. I loved what we talked about when it came to Cagliostro, because that was just like, that was both you and Melina's first experience of Lupin, and that was so fun to talk about.
I'm still partially riding on that high.
Yeah.
It's just been refueled with the first and stuff.
And I have been fighting so hard not to watch, like, the TV anime of Lupin, because I'm like, nah, I want to experience it with you guys and then talk about it. But the problem is like, we're still figuring out how we can cover, or mainly, not how we can cover, I shouldn't say it that way. It's like a scheduling thing, isn't it, when it comes to TV?
Exactly.
Movies are grand to watch for the podcast, and there's like almost like an endless sea of them that we can cover, especially when it comes to the stuff I've seen. Like, we have barely scratched the surface of like a list I could easily add to that's we already have in our production flowchart thing.
Yeah.
But
we're not running out of ideas anytime soon.
Definitely not. But there's always that part of me that wants to cover TV, but it's just like, TV can be a big ask to watch.
Because it takes a lot more dedication, because it's not a one and done movie, it's a full series.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, you can cover like you can watch a 12 episode anime fairly quickly, but then it's like, well, not everyone has the free time to necessarily watch it. I got to schedule watching stuff in between work and college and studying and stuff like that, and then Melina also has to do the same thing. You're kind of you have the most free time.
Yeah, because I don't have a job, and apart from unlike you two, I don't have a job, so.
And I think it's
not yet anyway.
No, not yet. I keep thinking, when we hit June next year and we're both free from college.
Yeah.
Maybe then it's more like
viable.
But then I remember Melina still has like a full year.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, shit, I kind of would feel really bad. Like, I know there's plenty of stuff that we could watch that Melina would just not vibe with, but I would feel bad leaving her out.
Exactly, because she's part of the trio.
Exactly.
It feels like a betrayal from us if we
start
doing that.
I have the solo episodes, but that's mainly just to fill in the fact that like we can't record as much as for Nap. Nap's so freeform that we can talk about literally anything, whereas we need
Yeah.
to plan Anime Lane out, and so that means we only can, make time to record one for like each month. Yeah. So I fill in the gap with my own episodes, and that's challenging in its own right. And I'm saying that because I forgot where the fuck I'm going. My train of thought was going somewhere, but it's went off on a journey, a never-ending journey to the stars.
To the stars.
That's the thing. I'd love to cover the Galaxy Express TV show.
Yeah, because I actually am interested to see, like, even if it's like the same story, I want to see how it's done in like a TV show style. Because watching the movies we have, it does feel like this originally started as a show and it's been adapted into a movie.
So it started as a manga by Leiji Matsumoto, which I mentioned in the episode we talked about it, and I think the TV anime predates the film by about a year, so it would have been near the halfway point, I think.
Yeah, because you did say in one of the movies that they hadn't gotten an ending yet. I think it was Adieu.
Adieu, yeah. So Adieu came 2 years after the first movie, which is just called G39, and the manga hadn't finished yet, and Leiji Matsumoto was like, I'm not fucking telling you the ending. Why would I do that? Because people wouldn't read my manga after that. It's like, yeah, fair enough. Movie. And then Rintaro, who directed it, basically just made Empire Strikes Back.
I mean, it really shows. Go, that episode's out at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, it's been out a while.
Okay, cool. Watch that, listen to that episode if you haven't already for some reason.
That film, like, the more I think back on it, is quite a fever dream.
It is a fever dream. It's not like a fever dream. It is a fever dream.
It is a fever dream. Those two films are out in 4K in Japan now, and I'm like, I really fucking want to see them in 4K. So I hope someone picks them up, like in the US, to put out in 4K. I still need to get Cagliostro in 4K because that's out in the States.
Oh.
I keep meaning to send you the link because I know you were interested in finding a way of watching it again. And so I quickly checked because
the Blu-ray we watched was like an import, and my Blu-ray player is my PS5, and that's not region free, whereas your one is.
Yes, so I have two Blu-ray players. I have a 4K Blu-ray player, which is region B locked, and then I have a standard Blu-ray player that's region free. And you're probably thinking, well, how does that work in terms of like watching 4K? 4K is region free. You don't ever need to worry about that.
I was about to say it doesn't really matter with region locking for 4K because the vast majority of 4K is region free.
It's nice that you mentioned vast majority because this is where I get the fun of mentioning. So the specification for 4K does not have anything in it for region coding. Meaning if it were to be certified and like verified, it wouldn't pass if it had region locking.
Ooh.
But you can release discs and not get them certified. That's like, it's just not a process for like Blu-rays or anything like that. Because verification certification is different from like age verification certification, which we do legally require here in the UK. In the US, 2 years ago, the film Weathering with You got a 4K disc release by G Kids, and it's region locked. It is region A locked. And still to this day, none of us know how they managed it. There just shouldn't be a way to do it.
They found through it some sort of dark art magic. They found a way.
And I don't know how much 4K stuff they've released since then, so I don't even know if like that's still a thing they do. They just somehow region
It better fucking not be.
I really fucking hope they don't. I mean, luckily we're in most cases Anime Limited here in the UK like have the rights to the stuff that G Kids distribute, and so they use their discs obviously just without the fucking region locking, because we got that movie here, Weathering with You. We got the 4K, all the same features, all the same. It was the same discs, and I put it in my PC. No fucking region locking, none. So no one knows what the fuck happened there.
Yeah, they just found a way somehow.
They just found a way.
The pure will of wanting to fuck over consumers.
Yeah. But it's interesting though, like a lot of region, or at least when it comes to anime, there's a lot of like distributors. There's like very easy ways to just bypass the region locking, even if you own like a region B player and you're putting in an A disc.
Yeah, because you did sort of try to recommend, like, trying to find a way.
Yes, I had a look to see if Castle of Cagliostro was one of those discs, and unfortunately it wasn't. There's like I think it's called the top menu bypass or something like that, where you can like, or title search or something, where you can like bypass it by mashing top menu or go into title search, and if you know the number of the title in the movie, you can kind of jump to it. Couldn't figure it out for Cagliostro. I know a lot of what I own, actually, I've put in my Region B player, and it's just fucking worked. No questions asked.
Magic.
I remember putting in like Pat Labor, and yep, just it worked. All of Sentai's releases just do not hit the region block screen; they just work.
Fantastic.
Discotheque's hit or miss. I know that City Hunter, even though it doesn't say it on the back of the case, is actually Region B coded as well, because they asked Sunrise at the time. It would have been. It's now Bandai Filmworks, and I hate that name. Yeah. They asked at the time. They were like, "There's no hope in hell this is going to get released in the UK. Can we code it to Region B as well so people can import it?" And they said yes.
Yeah,
which
sure.
is not very often that happens. A lot of the time, because Japan's like Japan's kind of region free, oddly enough. I think it's technically Region A, but a lot of it's like Region B, maybe. They'll like not allow other region coding on discs, so they're because they're like scared of backwards importing.
Yeah.
Anime in Japan is fucking expensive,
which is ironic.
Yeah, it really is. But they go for like the hardcore collector's market in Japan, so it's like
that makes a lot of sense.
One show, and I mean it really depends, because this isn't like a generic like one fits all kind of thing, but like a lot of shows will get released in volume sets, and it'll be like 2 to 3 episodes a set. So if it's like a 50 episode show, yeah, One Piece is released on volume sets of 2 episodes, and it's over 1,000 episodes now.
That's a lot of discs.
It is a lot of discs, yeah.
That's a mountain of discs. Like those old CD towers you used to get. It's just one. You need like 5 of them for One Piece.
I think Sword Art Online was released across like 8 volumes for 25 episodes or something like that. So it breaks down to like 3-4 episodes a disc or something. So yeah, it's weird, and because they're going for the hardcore collector's market, it's like most of it's limited edition. So you get a lot of extras. You'll get an art case. You'll get then like, if it's multiple volumes that make up one story arc, you'll get like on the final volume an art box thing that all the cases go into, and the prices of those are fucking insane.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's decent enough on some cases. Like I just got Mobile Suit Gundam Kukru's Dawn's Island, which is the movie adaptation of the missing episode from the original series, which we're gonna cover at some point. I bought that, I think it was £20 and then like £20 shipping, so it was like £40 in total to get that imported here. So in some cases, like it's viable to buy stuff from Japan. In other cases, it's not. Like looking at the Japanese release of the original Gundam series, which has the missing episode, and now they're going through and re-releasing a bunch of stuff, and putting subtitles on it. So there's subtitles on the episode that they didn't want released outside of Japan in English. So I've been looking at buying it, but it's like £120 or something like that. So it's kind of expensive.
It's up there, yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got like Zeta and Double Zeta. They're split into two parts, so they're like £100 each, ish. I think the last I looked. So even with the yen like tanking, it's still quite a wallet biter for some stuff. So I very rarely buy stuff in from Japan. It's only in like certain cases, like Akira I bought from Japan because the 4K disc for it here is fucked up on the audio, and that has subtitles in Japan. It also has one of the dubs, not both of them, but one of them. I don't remember which one it has. That was actually an interesting thing when we were watching Akira. You were messaging me about it the night that you were watching it, and I thought you kept misspelling one of the characters' names.
I'm sure we talked about this in the episode.
I think we talked about it a little bit, but I looked into it afterwards while I was editing the episode, and yeah, the Japanese disc's subtitle track has what I would call the correct spelling of the character's name.
Yeah.
Because it's a Japanese name. For context, the character is called K, which if you're translating from Japanese, it'd be Kei. But in the Netflix subtitles, it's spelled out Kay.
Yeah.
And I find that odd. There's a lot of little small differences between both subtitles, and I meant to check the like UK US Blu-rays that I have to see if it was maybe using that translation, and that's just a thing that's always been a thing. But I went to see it in the cinema, and I don't remember that being a thing. I think I'd pick up on someone's name being spelled like that because I know how that name is spelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've managed to fucking ramble for a while now.
It's fine. We were expecting that when we started this episode.
Yeah, I don't know what to title this episode anymore.
We can't exactly call it a year in review because it very much isn't that.
No, I don't want to do that.
I especially don't want to do that without Melina.
Nah, I don't want to do year in review episodes for both shows. It's when we're coming up on like the 1 year anniversary. But yeah, this has been such a fucking chaotic episode.
It's a fever dream of an episode.
The fever dream. Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Thank you for.
So what happens when we're left alone for too long?
Yeah,
and it's like the beginning of December, so seasonal affective
is
hitting us.
Yeah.
My brain is shut down for like a week now, and I hate it.
Oh, same. Yeah, I mean, at some point, I think this will probably happen again. As I found, doing solo episodes is fine and all, but I do run out of ideas kind of fairly often because it's relying on, I need to be watching stuff and kind of occasionally have dry periods, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, like we can't expect you to watch anime all day every day.
No, that's it. And mainly like I'm stumped right now because I'm kind of just keeping up with seasonal shows, and I can't really talk about them because I decided to skip the Impressions episode just for sake of not really doubling up on a similar episode and within the span of like a couple of months of each other when we only have 4 episodes across 2 months. So yeah, I kind of had to come up with something else until I can talk about them in January when everything kind of wraps up and I can give like a full like discussion on the stuff that I've watched this season, because I've been watching a fair bit, and there's still some stuff as the season's winding up I'm gonna try and watch at least a few episodes of so I can talk about them as well, because there's so much this season compared to the last one that like, because I think in summer I watched like 2 shows and I was like not interested in anything else that was airing. This season I really had to pick and choose. So yeah, I think duo episodes like this with me and Shaun could happen again at some point. I think it's very possible when I
Anime
run
Lane Boy Zone.
Anime Lane Boy Zone. Because there's a few things that like I've suggested. I'm mainly thinking back to like the original pitch meeting here from when we were pitching both Napcast and Anime Lane. I
Quite
make
a
that
long
sound
time
like
ago now.
I remember I make that sound like we were pitching to a company. We were kind of just
Yeah,
pitching the idea amongst ourselves and workshopping it.
yeah, with requirement for like college stuff as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I came with like a list of 10 movies, and I think Melina shot down like 3 or 4 of them. Like
Yeah.
outright, she was uninterested completely. Which
Fair.
really wounded me with Pat Labor. I really fucking want to cover that.
Well, you've got me, my man.
I that's what I'm thinking now that this is like a thing, a potential thing. We
Set
can
a precedent for this possibly being a thing.
Yeah, I think Pat Labor's like my immediate like. I think you would at least enjoy it to some degree. It's directed by the same guy who directed Ghost in the Shell. So
Ooh.
yeah, it's basically I this is the thing that like kind of I wanted to cover all of Mamoru Oshii's stuff from his theatrical debut with Urusu Yatsura up to I think it was Pat Labor 2 directly before Ghost in the Shell, because everything that he made prior to Ghost in the Shell pretty much led up to Ghost in the Shell, and that everything he made, at least in some degree, explored an idea that would later get rounded out and used in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, I think you told me like this at some point before, or you said it in like the episode where we covered Ghost in the Shell.
I feel like I have
that.
said that at some point. So yeah, that would be interesting. I just love Pat Labor, so I think that's if we do this again soon, that's probably what we'll go with.
Nice.
And we have some stuff coming up that we're having a meeting about on Saturday from a couple of days from today. And who knows, we may get Anime Lane stuff out of that. We don't know yet. So
yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so Pat Labor could come sooner rather than later. Galaxy Express TV could come sooner rather than later. Who knows what comes from that. It's weird, like we're 6 months in, but we're still very early on, and
yeah, it feels like we still just started this show, and like you said, it's been like half a year.
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel like we've been doing it forever, but at the same time, we've made progress, but we're not really at a stage where I feel like I wish we were, and I feel like all of us at times feel that little bit of frustration out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it's just a whole thing of the kind of individual like situations where we're all kind of studying. So until we all have more time, which even if, you know, we're done with college and I'm just picking up extra shifts at work, I'll instantly already have more time from that anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
I'll have a lot of time just for like when I'm out of college.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a natural way to segue into a wrap up of this.
There's one right there.
There's one right there, because I think we've gone over an hour, so I think we're good for this.
Yeah.
And it would just be a constant rambling, and I'd probably spin in circles at this point.
Exactly. So let's just cut it right there.
Yes. We this year, quickly before we wrap up, we've done like no Christmas or Halloween stuff for Anime Lane. Just we kind of focused. we decided to focus more on doing Halloween specials for Nap. This year.
Next year we'll see.
Even again, if it's just, you know, me and you doing something for Halloween or whatever. Because
if it's any consolation for Christmas stuff, we're both wearing Christmas jumpers.
Yes, I'm wearing my Skyrim Christmas jumper. You're wearing your
Game of Thrones one. House Stark.
Yeah. Hopefully next year we can do some horror anime. I don't know, you know, how interested either of you will be in watching those.
I might be. I I feel like I'm getting better. Like, since the Halloween episodes, funnily enough, I've gotten better with horror just in general.
I think an odd thing with like horror when it comes to anime is that it for me anyway, as a horror fan.
We don't want to turn this into a ramble. So.
Yeah. I'll quickly cover this. I never quite feel that it's that horror or it's that scary. It kind of like, oh hey, look, this is just really interesting animation.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you guys,
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, I hope you guys kind of feel similar about that. But yeah, next year hopefully we can do something for Christmas and Halloween. Christmas is an odd one because anime do Christmas episodes, but there's no like movies really dedicated to Christmas or anything like that.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, that's it. We got a whole year to plan for it.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you for listening to this.
And we won't, but anyway, yes. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Anime Lane. What a fucking shit show this has been. Thank you, Shaun, for joining me on this.
You're welcome.
I kind of pulled you in last minute.
It's cool. I can do that.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks when we're talking about Drifting Home and Hello World. Those were movies.
Those were quite movies.
Yeah.
Enjoy our conversations on it.
We did. So come back and listen to those. I've now realized that neither of those are really like gonna be that searched. But you know, I don't do this show for getting the clicks or anything like that.
Not at all. Although if we did get the clicks, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube gods, please lend us that morsel. Put us on some people's recommended.
We need to wrap this up.
We do. We have this bad habit of just fucking continuing to talk. God.
Someone shut us up. Please.
Yes. Yeah, I've said thank you for listening, so we're just gonna say bye now, and that's the end of the episode.
Okay, cool. See ya.
Bye.